1914 to present Americas. Hello, Miss Petrie's fifth period. My name is Angel Leal, and when I started this project, I had no clue where to start. And I devised a plan to help me get started and eventually finish it. You see, I thought, what if I could do my research, film, make my video, edit, and upload twice as fast as I can by myself. So, here it is. Hello, my name is Angel Leal. And my name is also Angel Leal. And today, we're going to explain to you what happened in a certain place at a certain time. The time and place we're going to talk about today is the Americas, during the years of 1914 all the way to the present day. To be more precise, I will be talking about North America. And I will be talking about South America. The first major event to occur in North America was the opening of the Panama Canal in 1914. It connected the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, allowing ships to avoid the treacherous Cape Horn route, taken by heading south and around South America. At the end of World War I in 1918, America, to a lesser degree Canada, saw great prosperity, leading up to the stock market crash of 1929. It was the most devastating stock market crash in the history of the United States, and affected all Western industrialized nations. The effects of the stock market crash lingered in the United States up until they entered World War II in 1941. In terms of South America, recent years have had many South American countries somewhat distant from the success seen during the 20th century. For the most part, South American countries remained neutral during World War II and played very little part in World War I. The time immediately following World War I was, in general, a boom time, because there was a greater demand for consumer goods in Europe and America. This fueled South American exports greatly. An odd exception to this was the country of Chile, in which the nitrate boom, for some reason, suddenly ended, leading to an all-time economic low for the entire country. Shifting our view towards Mexico, there was quite a popular uprising. This uprising was against the anti-Catholic government of the time, and lasted from 1939 to 1945. Shifting our view even further, in the Caribbean, several islands began to experience the start of decolonization. In Cuba, the island witnesses their own revolution that eventually introduces the Soviet Union, which is now known as Russia, to Latin America. Somewhat backtracking, let's take a closer look at World War II. This was a global conflict lasting from 1939 to 1945 and involved many of the world's countries. These include all the great powers, including Canada and the United States. Between the victory of the US and the ruined state that Europe was left in after the war, several North American countries were catapulted into global affairs. In particular, the United States emerged as somewhat of a superpower that it is today. The stock market crash of 1929, as well as the Great Depression, also hit South American economies very hard. It directly led to the rise of populist figures. One such example is Colonel Perón, who served as Argentinian president from 1946 to 1955. Other examples are various dictatorships in other countries. Some, like Brazil, took swift control of economic recovery. Others, such as Peru or Colombia, were never able to deal with the social and economic problems they faced due to a lack of political stability. Uruguay, however, has stood out as a country looked up to by many for its prosperity as well as its democracy in time of need. While the US became a superpower, Mexico also experienced a huge economic growth after World War II. A lot of industrialization and a surge of growth in the middle class. This is known in Mexican history as El Milagro Mexicano, or the Mexican Miracle. Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua joined together to find a common economic bond in 1960. Furthermore, Guatemala and Trinidad y Tobago gained political independence in 1962. This brought about the formal decolonization of the entire English-speaking Caribbean. Depressed prices for many of South America's exports in the 1960s and 70s led to economic and political problems. Military dictatorships seized power in several countries, including Brazil, Argentina, Chile, and Uruguay in 1964, 76, 73, and again 73, respectively. In the following decades, however, the tide turned and, despite continuing economic volatility, the democratic government was restored in Brazil in 1985, Argentina in 1983, and Chile in 1988, as well as several other countries around the same time. In 1993, democracy came to Paraguay for the first time in its history. The early Cold War era saw the United States as the most powerful nation in a Western coalition of which Mexico and Canada were also a part. At home, the United States witnessed violent change, especially in the area of race relations. In Canada, the Quiet Revolution and the emergence of Quebec nationalism mirrored this. During this time, the United States became involved in the Vietnam War. That war would later prove to be highly divisive in American society, and American troops were withdrawn. The leadership of Pierre Elliott Trudeau dominated Canada during this era. Eventually, in 1982, at the end of his tenure, Canada had an all-new constitution. Economic problems have plagued most South American countries at some time during these decades, largely due to their reliance upon a small range of export commodities. However, economic reforms in some countries, notably Brazil and Chile, have led to significant and enduring economic gains. Major changes continued into the 21st century. Mexico experienced a strong economic recession in the 1980s. The Canada-United States Free Trade Agreement was reached in January 1989, and on January 1st, 1994, Canada, Mexico, and the United States of America signed the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, creating the world's largest free trade area. Those major economic events were followed by the 9/11 attacks on the United States and the subsequent war in Afghanistan, participated by Canada and the US. In 2006, the violent drug war spread from Central America to Canada, and that human tragedy reached a deadly peak in Mexico in the last few years. In 2008, the financial crisis had begun. The United States eventually triggered a worldwide recession, an economic slowdown that has now waned quite a bit. The South American countries that have missed out on prosperity most dramatically have been those experiencing widespread terrorist activity. These include Peru, Colombia, and Ecuador. In two of these, Peru and Ecuador, the insurgencies have been largely defeated, but Colombia's remains very much alive. Thank you very much. No, thank you.